All right, so I'm just going to go through what you're going to be doing with this project. So I did the Who is Better project. So you could have chosen to do the other one, but I chose to do this one. And obviously, one of the biggest comparisons in sports is Kobe versus Michael. So I decided that I was going to look at that, and then instead, you could look at any number of statistics. I chose to look at shooting percentage. So on a given website, this looks like field goal percentage. So I chose to use the sportsreference.com website. And it's really easy. You just go to that website and you just type in the top. There's like a search bar. You type in Kobe Bryant and it gives his career statistics. And then, or type in Michael Jordan and it gives his career statistics. So I chose to compare their shooting percentage. And then I gave my reasons here. So you can read these reasons. You can pause it and look what I did. But I want you to include a little bit more. I was kind of being brief, more like just giving you an example. So after that, I went to the sports reference page and I pulled the data from Michael and Kobe. So you can kind of see the data I picked. So I picked shooting percentage. So you can see that Michael's shooting percentage over his career. And I just chose the data. He had 15 seasons of data. The last 2 seasons were with the Wizards. So there was some of that. And Kobe had 20 seasons of data. So when you look at Michael versus Kobe, there are quite a bit of, as far as like Kobe had 5 more seasons. Michael did sit 3 seasons after being with the Bulls, and then he sat 1 season to play baseball. So, I mean, there was that. And Kobe started when he was 18, and Michael started when he was 21, or, a little bit older. So there's some data there. It's kind of interesting when you start looking at this, trying to compare things. So comparing the shooting percentage, you can see that Michael's is pretty much, to make this graph, I printed this sheet, the third sheet, and I just wrote on it, right? So there was no way to do this like electronically. So if you look at what I did, I just kind of like took a red pen and a blue pen and compared the data. And I chose to make my y-axis start at 0.35 for a shooting percentage and stop at 0.55. And you can see that Michael's typically above Kobe. He dips below for this one season and then below for these 2. So Kobe shows consistency throughout his career until like the very end and when he kind of dips a little bit. So you can see that, so that's a line graph. And then I did mean, median, and mode on that same data. So you can kind of see what I did. So I took the same data from the previous page. I did the mean and the median, and you can see that Michael's mean versus Kobe's mean. Obviously, Michael's a little bit better percentage shooter than Kobe over the course of his career. So that's kind of something to think about. All right, so from there, I wanted you guys to do frequency. So this is where you have a little bit of freedom in terms of the range of values that you choose. So for this particular example, the lowest value was Kobe's like last season, which was like a 0.35 something. So I wanted to start my values at 0.35, and then the highest value was Michael's season of 0.38 or something, or 0.39 or 0.539. I'm sorry. So and so I wanted to end my values there. So I chose to go up by every 0.01. So I started with 0.35, 0.36, 0.37, 0.38, and then you make your ranges based on that. And after you do this part. This takes a little bit of time. Counting the times that Michael landed in these ranges is pretty easy. And you can see that Michael landed between 0.411 and 0.42 2 times, and so on and so forth down the line. He had his most frequent range was between 0.531 and 0.54. So those are probably his 3 best seasons. And Kobe obviously is kind of clumped in this little range. So he's a very consistent shooter over the course of his 20 seasons. 11 of the 20, you can see that he's between 0.45 and 0.47. So kind of interesting when you start breaking down the frequency that they score in these things, and shows you like the consistency of Kobe and versus like just like Michael's ability to score at a much higher percentage. So and then putting this into a frequency graph. So this is a histogram. You could do a line plot if you want. The line plot is just the same thing but with like X's. But you can kind of see what I was just saying, where you have 11 of Kobe's 20 seasons, he's kind of in between 0.45 and 0.47. So, and then Michael's a little more spread out, but he does have these values that are higher. So if you kind of like compare these lines, you can kind of see like Kobe doesn't have any seasons in this space, and Michael has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons that are above any of Kobe's seasons. So that's pretty telling as far as who might be the better shooter, scorer. So after you do all the data, you want to compare and you want to analyze. So this is like the part where you get to interpret what you found. So I want you to analyze each thing you did So I want you to analyze the line graph. So the line graph was that graph that showed like the red line and the blue line, and you could kind of compare what's going on there. So it says from the line graph, Michael has the higher values early in his career compared with Kobe Bryant, so on and so forth. All right, then you want to compare the mean, median, and mode. So basically, Jordan has the higher mean and median. Put 4 or 5 more sentences kind of comparing these things. What can you conclude? Are there any other conclusions and things like that? So number 3, it asks you to compare your frequency tables. And like I said before, this kind of like speaks to the consistency of Kobe versus like Michael has the higher field goal percentages more often. And then again, kind of answer these questions in 3 or 4 more sentences. Kind of, I'm going to say you need to fill this box necessarily. And then feel free to type this. Obviously, you don't want to necessarily write this. I just chose to write it because I had it printed. And then lastly, you want to make your conclusions. So what are your conclusions here? If you had to predict, who would you say is a little bit of a better? And again, this doesn't necessarily mean he's a better player, right? Like I said, Kobe's very consistent. He's kind of like that steady, really good, steady player. Michael obviously had those amazing seasons where he shot above 50% from the field, which is kind of, you know, like when you think about the greatest of all time. So when you break this down, and then also you kind of speak to like ages, right? Kobe was 18 when he entered the league, so some of those early seasons, if you're comparing to Michael, might be a little bit skewed considering Michael was 21 and Kobe was 18. So Michael's a little more mature, had played a little bit more basketball at that point in his life. So you kind of look at the data and you kind of make these conclusions, and then also figure out, you know, what other data might you want, right? Is there more data, right? So this is just one piece, one thing that you looked at. You looked at field goal percentage of Michael and Kobe, and also if there is more data, feel free to look into it. So that's just something that kind of introduced this thing. Like I said, feel free to email me, call me, whatever. Maybe not call me, email me, talk to me, message me, and we can figure out if you have any questions on what you're doing. So don't do Michael and Kobe, right? If you want to pick 2 others, maybe Kobe and LeBron, somebody like, you pick 2 people's college careers, you know, who's the best college player. You can pick anything. You pick baseball, you pick football, it doesn't matter. But comparing 2 players in a stat and trying to make conclusions about who's better. That's the idea of this project. The other project you can look at, and it's kind of the same thing, but it's comparing different rates of cases per day and things like that, and determining when we might be going back to school. And it might not be this year, but you might make an estimate, like say for the COVID-19 project that you saw, you might pick that one, and the estimate might be, I don't know, August or something. So it's not necessarily like the answer isn't we're not going back to school. It could be like, well, if we did go back, it would probably not happen until about this time, August or something. So yeah, hopefully this helps. Take a look, try your project. Good luck. Feel free to contact.